I am Ava Reed, an American woman, and I am telling my own story. The morning of my movie premiere began in our house on Maple Street in Los Angeles. I woke before the alarm. In the hall, I heard the wheels of suitcases clicking over the wood. My parents were leaving for a New York trip. They had picked a flight over my big night, as if my work did not count. At the door, my dad smirked and said, "A failed movie where you just pick up other people's stuff and follow them around." My mom laughed, and my sister, Claire, laughed too. They thought I was only a helper on set. They had no idea I was the producer of the film we were about to show that night. The family photos lined the wall, Claire with her medals, me with a bad haircut and a brave smile. I wanted to beg them to stay. I chose not to. I pressed my palm to the doorframe and said, "Have a good trip," like a polite stranger. When the door shut, the whole house seemed to breathe out. I made black tea and sat at the small kitchen table with a notebook. I wrote my list for the night in careful letters. Check sound. Thank Lucas. Let Grace speak. Thank Daniel. Breathe. The words steadied me. Then I washed my face and started getting ready with slow, sure hands. The dress was simple and black, bought last week for $89 after hunting through sale racks. I checked the hem and the zipper twice. A thrift store clutch that cost $12 waited on my bed. Inside it, I tucked my list, a lip balm, and a Metro card. By late afternoon, I locked the door and headed down the steps. I took the bus along Sunset to save money. I got out a few blocks early and paid $22 for a short rideshare so my hair would not frizz before the cameras. The theater marquee burned blue against the sky. Lucas, my friend and camera lead, stood by the glass doors with a wide grin. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be," I said. Grace, our writer, hugged me so hard my ribs complained. Daniel, our editor, held up the program and tapped my name. "About time," he said, and his voice shook a little. We were a small team with a small budget, $180,000, counted and recounted. I tracked every dollar in a plain spreadsheet. The theater manager shook my hand and talked about a second late show if the first one sold out. I nodded and thanked him. For a moment, my mind drifted to New York. I picture my parents pulling their suitcases along a busy street and sending photos to the family group chat. When the lights went down, the room held its breath. The first sound was a single inhale, then a footstep, then quiet. We had argued for hours over the timing of that cut. Daniel wanted it sharp. I wanted it to linger. In the end, the hold stayed, and now I could feel the audience lean in. The screen felt like a door we had opened together. The story moved in steady beats, just as we had planned on note cards spread across my living room floor. I sat very still and let the film carry us forward. Halfway through, a laugh rolled across the rows, the kind of laugh that knows hurt and chooses light anyway. I pressed my palms flat on my knees and kept breathing. I thought of the house on Maple Street, of late nights with a cheap lamp and an old laptop that ran hot. I thought of the chipped clay bowl on my desk that I bought for $6, the one I touch each morning like a small rough prayer. Tonight, I did not need the bowl. The prayer was the work itself, and the people who came to see it. The final scene landed like a soft bell. The credits rose, and there was my name, clean and calm. Ava Reed, producer. Someone near me gasped. The lights came up, and the room stood to clap. Lucas hooped. Grace cried and laughed at once. Daniel wiped his eyes with the heel of his hand and tried to hide it. The manager waved me toward the small stage, and I walked there on legs that felt new and sure. I answered the questions in plain words. I thanked my team. I said the budget out loud because money should be said out loud. I said, "We are an American crew, and we made this with care." I did not speak about my parents. I did not need to. When it was over, I slipped out a side door into the Los Angeles night. The air smelled like lemons and warm dust. I looked up and whispered, "I did it." It was not a boast. It was a promise to keep going here in America and one day, maybe in Europe too. By midnight, my phone would not stop buzzing. Reviews rolled in with a clean 10 out of 10, the kind that makes you rub your eyes and read twice. My name climbed the trending page like a steady flame. The theater manager called from the lobby to say we sold out the extra shows and crossed $120,000 in opening night sales in our city alone. An agent with a clear voice used the word preempt, then offered a streaming deal for $4 million. I pressed the phone to my chest, felt the fast drum of my heart, and said out loud, to no one and to everyone, we did it. Outside the theater, the sidewalk turned into a small parade. A woman in a denim jacket grabbed my hands and said, Ava, your movie made me feel awake. Marcus, one of our actors, lifted me an inch off the ground. I squealed, and he set me down like I was made of glass. Grace cried happy tears, then wiped her cheeks with both sleeves and laughed at herself. Lucas filmed on his phone, saying he needed proof for later. Daniel leaned close and whispered, Ava, this is your life now. I tried to answer, but the words caught in my throat. I only nodded and smiled until my cheeks ached. The press light was warm and quick. A local reporter in Los Angeles asked about our small budget and our big heart. I told her the truth. America shaped this film, block by block and breath by breath. People in New York, Chicago, Miami, Dallas, and Seattle posted short clips with simple captions that said, "Watch this." A teacher wrote that she would bring her seniors. A paramedic wrote that he watched between calls. A woman in Cleveland said she had not felt seen in years. I read every note like a blessing. I answered with plain thanks, so I would not break the moment open and cry. After the last handshake, I walked alone beneath the neon and the late buses. The night air was soft and a little sweet. A few blocks from the theater, I passed a lawn I knew well. The for sale sign I had watched all month leaned at a brave angle. I opened the listing again. $1,250,000 for a small modern house in Silver Lake. White kitchen, warm wood floors, a lemon tree out back. I picture my notebooks on that counter and the porch light on a timer. I pictured throwing open the windows and letting new air tell me who I was now. I touched the screen and whispered, soon. At a diner that never sleeps, I slid into a booth and ordered coffee for $4 and pancakes for $9. The server, a man named Victor, looked at my badge and said, "Congratulations," as if the word were a secret handshake. I opened the deal memo the agent emailed. The numbers were big and clean, but numbers can still hide thorns. I texted Jordan Wells, my attorney friend, and asked if she could look at it in the morning. She wrote back, "Of course. Don't sign yet." I turned my phone face down and ate very slowly, tasting each bite like I was learning to trust sweetness again. On the walk home, I counted the good news like steps: sold-out shows, strong reviews, and an offer that could change our lives. Then I counted the work left to do. Clear the music cues, secure the closed caption files, confirm the deliverables, pay bonuses to the people who saved me. I thought of my parents flying east to New York on the day I needed them, of my sister Claire's soft laugh, of the way the word failed had echoed in our house. The hurt was still there, but it did not steer me anymore. It sat in the back row, quiet, while I stood at the front and chose what mattered next. At home, the rooms on Maple Street felt smaller, as if the walls had leaned in while I was gone. I washed my face and checked the locks. I sat on the floor with my laptop and opened a blank note called Next. I wrote in plain lines, protect the story, pay people well,
keep the cuts honest,
keep the doors open. I added, buy a house. I added, breathe. My phone flashed again. A distributor in Europe asked for a call about limited theatrical there, a possible £600,000 package, if the timing worked. I smiled at the screen. It felt good to read an offer from across the ocean without losing my center here. Sleep did not come right away, so I walked the rooms and said goodbye to the things that were already leaving me. The dent in the hallway where Claire bumped a suitcase. The sun stripe on the wall where the family photos used to hang. The chipped clay bowl on my desk, still holding paper clips and a single safety pin. I felt an ache for the girl who kept those paper clips like treasure. I knew I was still her, only steadier now. only louder inside. I lay down, opened my hands on the quilt, and let the night settle over me like a kind, heavy coat. At dawn, I woke to light the color of lemon peels. Messages stacked up like snowdrifts. The agent wanted a meeting at 9. Grace sent a row of stars. Lucas sent footage from the sidewalk, shaky and dear. Daniel sent a note that only said, "Proud of you." I pulled on jeans and my old gray sweater and tied my hair back. Before I left, I looked once more at the listing for the house in Silver Lake and pictured turning a key. I pictured the lemon tree and the porch steps and my name on a mailbox. I was ready to step toward the life that had finally stepped toward me. Morning found me with a full inbox and a steady heart. Jordan Wells, my attorney friend, called at 8 and walked me through each line of the streaming deal we talked about last night. We sat at my small kitchen table in the Maple Street house with mugs of plain coffee, and she used clear words. The numbers were strong, the term was fair, and the back end held shape. I signed my name, Ava Reed, in calm strokes that did not shake. When I emailed the pages, I felt the quiet click of a door inside me, the kind that says, "Now go." America had given me a chance, and I took it. The wire instructions arrived before 9. The advance would land in stages, but the first part was enough to change the map of my life. I gave myself 10 minutes to breathe, then I made a call I had saved for this exact moment. The mover on the line was a man named Raphael. His voice was warm and quick. "Same-day pickup will carry a rush fee," he said. $3,000. I said yes without a flinch. I paid the $3,000 on my card and booked a truck for the afternoon. Before my parents could fly back from New York and try to stand in my doorway, I would be gone. I pulled boxes from the hall closet and lined them like short soldiers along the wall. I packed the notebooks first, the ones with cheap paper and thin lines, the ones that held "The bones of you are dead." I put bubble wrap around the chipped clay bowl on my desk and tucked it into a shoebox like it was a little pet that needed rest. I pulled the family photos from the Sunstripe and slid them into a folder. I did not cry. I moved room to room and named what I would take. The thrift store lamp, the good skillet, the stack of scripts bound with red cord. I left the old rug that never quite lay flat. I left the dented laundry basket that caught on my hip every time I walked past. Raphael's crew knocked at noon. 2 men, John and Malik, carried in clean blankets and a quiet focus. Lucas showed up with deli sandwiches and water and said he would stay until the last box was sealed. Grace and Daniel texted a row of hearts and promised to meet me later at the new place. I watched my life fold into neat shapes as if it had always wanted to be this small and clear. When John asked which items were fragile, I said, "All the words," and he laughed and wrote "fragile" on every side of the boxes that held my notes. When the rooms were empty, I wrote a single letter for my parents and left it on the kitchen counter. I told them I knew they were sorry now, but I could not build a new life on the same floor where they spoke the word "failed" over me. I said I wished them well, and that I hoped Claire found her own true joy, but that I needed space and peace. I asked them not to come to my new home. I set the house key beside the letter and pressed my palm to the counter to feel the cool. Then I swept the floor, wiped the stove, and closed the door. The lock turned with a soft click that felt like a final, kind goodbye. By sunset, the truck rolled up to a small modern house in Silver Lake with warm wood floors and a lemon tree. The porch steps looked like a promise. The escrow officer had called an hour earlier. The wire went through. I sent $400,000 for the down payment and watched the screen flash paid. The price was still the same, $1,250,000, and the mortgage terms were clean. I was careful, but I was not afraid. I signed a few last forms on the hood of Raphael's truck and laughed when John handed me a pencil like I was about to sit an exam. When they drove off, the street grew quiet, and I stood there with a ring of keys that felt heavy and right in my hand. Inside, I set my laptop on the white counter and turned on one lamp. The house smelled like new paint and faint lemon. I boiled pasta in the good skillet because the pots were still in a box and tossed it with oil and salt. The meal cost about $6 and tasted like air after rain. I ate cross-legged on the floor and grinned at nothing, or maybe at everything. I sent a group text to Grace, Daniel, and Lucas. Home. They answered with fireworks and short cheers. I promised them I would sleep and then meet in the morning to plan the bonus checks and the schedule for our next steps. My parents started calling just after 9. The phone lit and lit again. Claire texted to say they were flying back and wanted to apologize. I read the words and felt the old ache stir, like a habit that had not quite died. I set the phone to do not disturb and put it face down. I did not need anger to hold my boundary. I needed only peace. I chose it. I washed the single bowl and the fork I had used, set them on the counter to dry, and walked room to room in my new house, touching the cool edges of a life that finally matched what I carried inside. Before bed, I made a small list in simple words. Change the locks, open the gas account, set up internet, pick a modest sofa, buy a $59 kettle and a $38 lamp until I know my style. I added one more line. Plant herbs under the lemon tree. I smiled at the thought of making tea with leaves I grew, even as deals moved across screens and talk of Europe drifted in as clean as a breeze. If a limited release brought in a modest £200,000, that would be fine. If not, I would still tell the next story here in America with the same steady fire. I lay down on the new mattress with no headboard yet, just a wall and a free sky. The city hummed a soft note beyond the windows. I folded my hands on my stomach and let the day play back like a film. The signature, the boxes, the lemon tree, the word paid, the quiet at the end. I closed my eyes and felt the house hold me, as if the rooms were saying, "You did not wait for permission.
You built it."
I slept without dreams and woke once, not from fear, but from joy, sure that I had finally moved into my own life. The next weeks were bright and full, the kind of busy that makes your feet ache and your heart stand tall. I brought Grace on full-time at $85,000 a year and Daniel at $90,000. I wired Lucas a $15,000 bonus with a note that said, "For every time you stayed late when the lights went out." Their joy came through my phone like sunshine. That same day, I opened a small fund with $50,000 to help new women producers in America. I called it the Open Door Fund because that is what I needed when people laughed at me. I posted a plain form, asked for a page of story, and promised answers in 2 weeks, not 2 months. I wanted speed and care. Work spilled past the edges of each day in the best way. I drove to meetings in Burbank and Santa Monica with the windows down. I played old pop songs and let the wind settle my nerves. In every room, I said the same line. I tell stories about people who think they're small and then learn they are not. People nodded. Naomi Brooks, an agent with sharp eyes and a kind laugh, put a contract on the table without games. Jordan Wells read the pages and circled 2 clauses. We fixed them in an hour. A second film got the green light with a $2,200,000 budget. I called it Still Here because that was the simple truth. A distributor in Europe emailed about a small theatrical plan there with a £300,000 guarantee, and I said we could talk later. For now, my feet were on American ground, and I liked the way the floor held. At night, my new house became my anchor. I squeezed a lemon from my own tree and stirred the juice into tea. I sat on the porch steps and answered messages from people in Denver and Boston and Cleveland. A teacher wrote that she used "You Are Dead" to spark a class talk about courage. A nurse said she watched after a night shift and felt less alone. A little girl signed her letter, Sophie, age 9, and wrote, "I want to be like you." I wrote back in my own hand and told her the words I needed when I was 9. "You are not a mistake.
Keep going."
Then I stamped the letters and felt the quiet joy of doing one small thing right. The fund brought the first stack of entries. I read each one at my kitchen counter with a pen and a bowl of cherries. One proposal came from a woman named Nora Diaz in Ohio. Her story was spare and fierce. I called her and said, "How much would it cost you to start?" She said, "Anything," which told me she had been told no a lot. I sent her $5,000 that afternoon and promised calls with Grace and Daniel to help her plan. Lucas filmed a short video about grants like hers so other women could see a door where they had only seen a wall. Production for Still Here began to breathe. We scouted a small house in Echo Park for 2 key scenes and a soundstage in the valley for 3 days of controlled shots. Thomas Hale, a line producer with a neat notebook, broke our budget into clean lines that even my tired brain could love. We set fair day rates, put overtime in writing, and kept the calendar honest. I told every person on the crew what I would have wanted to hear when I was new. Your time matters, and you'll be paid on time. When the payroll service asked for bank proof, I sent it with a small thrill. I could do this. I could make art and make sure the checks cleared. Not every hour was bright. My parents sent long emails from New York when they got home, then short ones when I did not reply, then one more with the subject line, "We're sorry." I read each in full. I did not answer. I wrote one clean letter instead. I said I wished them health. I said I needed them to keep the space I had asked for. I said I hoped Claire found her own sky and did not climb only the ladder set in front of her. Then I closed my laptop and walked outside to watch the lemon tree throw a thin shade across the grass. I did not feel hard. I felt clear. One Saturday, I took a stack of folding chairs to a small art center in Highland Park for a free community screening. We licensed the hall for $600, paid a young projectionist named Theo $150, and bought water and cookies for $74. People came with friends and sat shoulder to shoulder. After the credits, a woman in a red coat asked how to start when you have $0 and a story you can't stop seeing. I told her the truth. Write it down. Make a plan that fits your real life. Ask for help. Spend dollars slowly. Keep the core alive. On the way out, I donated $10,000 to the center so they could buy a better screen. The director, a woman named Lydia, hugged me and said, "You are building the thing you needed." I held that sentence like a warm stone all the way home. In the rooms of my house, I kept my small rituals. I made pasta with oil and salt when the day had used up all my words. I took a short walk at dusk and waved to Mr. Patel next door, quiet, kind, always watering his roses. I set a $59 kettle on the stove and a $38 lamp on my desk and decided not to buy more until the story told me what the rooms wanted. On Sundays, I cleaned the floors with music in my ears and thought about scenes. When I was stuck, I read aloud in the kitchen until the lines sounded true. I let the house teach me how to live in it. As the second film moved forward, the first kept opening doors I had not known existed. Invitations arrived from festivals in America I had once watched from far away: Telluride, Austin, Santa Barbara. I checked the travel costs, booked coach seats, and said yes when the schedule allowed. On stage, I spoke in the same plain words as always. When someone asked about luck, I said, "Luck came after a lot of boring, steady work." When someone asked about money, I gave numbers. It felt right to speak in dollars and in clear terms. It felt like a promise to the woman I used to be. I never went back to Maple Street. I kept my boundaries strong. I did not hate my family. I loved my new life more. I loved the quiet house, the small team, and the people who filled theaters across America. I loved the long nights when a scene finally clicked and the first bright hour when a new idea arrived. I loved waking in a room I had paid for with work that came from my own mind. I started as the girl they mocked. I became the woman who walked away. Now I am the producer they look up to, still here, still building, making films in America with fire in my chest and care in my hands, looking toward Europe when the time is right, and walking each day into the life I chose.